is a Bulldog radio podcast.
The Ferris State Bulldogs have upset the nation's #2 ranked team. Wide open! Taylor is going to take this one to the house! Touchdown Bulldogs!
It's the MVSP Season 4, Episode 22. Brandon, it's new digs, man. We got a brand new studio. So nice to be in the new spot. It might sound a little bit different with the different mics that we got, but I can assure you, they're better mics, better headset, better place to be. It's a brand new day, Brandon. I love our new studio.
This is incredible. I can't thank everyone that helped made this possible. Bulldog Radio, of course, as well as MEBA, on obviously the artificial intelligence community here at Ferris State, who are giving us this studio room. It's a blessing.
Such a sick studio, man.
It's incredible, but it's been a long road for everyone to get us here. Not to make this a
long time coming.
Yeah, not to make this a soap opera or anything, but it's truly you guys that helped make this possible. So this is incredible, and we're so glad to be able to produce even better content, have better overall resources to make the best show possible, and you guys are a huge part of it, so we say thank you, and we thank all of those that help make this possible, because this is really cool. I mean, just getting everybody together, the whole collaboration, the partnerships that are going to be taken off at the beginning of the new year for Bulldog Radio. It's really been, it's been a little bit of a downtime for the whole group as a whole. And I think with all the great partnerships and collaboration, we're going to get it back on track with a lot more participation, a lot more great things on the way. And it's certainly going to be cool, Joe. I mean, I'm just blessed to be a part of it and be in this room right now.
Yeah, dude, it's a blessing, and we love to be here. Got a great episode for you guys as well. Fair State Sports Report gonna go over last weekend's action. Not a whole lot went on, but some good stuff went on regardless, as well as some World Cup going on. USA took on England, so we're gonna hear our thoughts on that. And then the game, Michigan versus Ohio State, and then some college football playoff predictions and how that's going to go out. But Brandon, before that all goes down, who do we have on the show today?
We got a great interview with Ferris State volleyball player Syann Fairfield. Will be joining us to talk about the successful season in volleyball and really the amazing run that they went on in the regular season into the postseason. It was phenomenal to watch. The team was great all the way around. Syann, obviously one of the big parts of that team, was one of the most improved players in my mind throughout the entirety of the year. So great to have her on the show, and a great interview, Joe. It was great to have a chance to talk to her. So without further ado,
let's swing into the interview.
Now joined in studio, Ferris State volleyball player Syann Fairfield is joining us. Syann, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Syann, first question for you. Big and great successful year for the team. One that not a lot of people thought, especially at the start of the season. When you look back to the start of the year before it started, kind of what was the outcome that you and the team, as well as Coach Tia, had for the team before everything went down?
Yeah, at the beginning of the season, we had obviously a team meeting, and we kind of just talked about knowing that last year we graduated a lot of people. We were like, well, we're just going to get 1% better every day. We're going to push ourselves, see where we can end up. But our end goal was to win the GLIAC championship and have that automatic bid into the regional tournament. And that's what we got. So
yeah, and you mentioned the team being a lot younger. Obviously, a lot of great players moving on last year, like Katie and Nina and Sam, just to mention a few. What was that like, being able to really be one of the members on the team with a really high freshman class with you and experience? What was that interaction like in early camp, and being able to really build that team chemistry, because you guys needed it right out of the gate?
Yeah, I think especially in camps, you could just see everyone's mindset was we're just ready to get back here for preseason, and we were super excited just to grow. And after spring last year, after not having, Katie and Nina and them, a big goal was just we were going to be the mighty ones. I think Olivia Henneman-Delape was the one that was talking to our coach about what are we going to be? And we just called ourselves the mighty ones all season, and we were ready to be young. But we hate when people kind of look on us and say, oh, this is just a young team. But yeah, we're young within class, but we're mature, we're ready to fight, and we were super tough this season.
For sure. And talking about that resiliency, the team started out 0-6 on the year against really great teams, but still 0-6. What was that turning point that you kind of thought was for the team? Because after those 6 games, won 26 out of 30 to close out the year. So kind of what was that turning point that you thought happened?
Yeah. So when we started 0-6, we were all just what are we what's going to happen when we're just embarrassed enough just to win a game? How are we going to go out there and play Ferris volleyball? It was just every time we would lose, we'd go in the locker room, and we were just get after each other. We're come on, what are we going to do? we got to do something. And then after we came back from Hillsdale, after losing those games, we, well, I guess we didn't lose all of them in Hillsdale, but we still came back to practice like a better mindset. Like we just have to practice how we're going to play, because we noticed that when we were practicing in preseason, we were like, oh, like we're good. But then we faced those teams that were really good teams out in Washington. And we were like, all right, we have to change some things, and we practiced harder, and that led to better play.
Yeah, and you can definitely tell with years past in the program, the image has been resiliency, being able to bounce back, especially against the odds, GLIAC preseason rankings. But when you guys went on that run, obviously, in the last couple of games, especially going into that 5-set thrill with Grand Valley and going into that 5-set thriller in the finals match with UMSL, what does it take really for you guys to really kind of get together and really grind through those 5-set games? Because those are really a lot taxing, especially back-to-back is one of the hardest things to do in sport. And you guys do it all the time, playing even 3 days in a row.
Yeah, I think we've always been a really big like protocol team. Like at the beginning of the season, we kind of stuck to like what we do, like what's our thing. If like something happens, like what can we fall back on? And we're just like a big like physical touch, eyes up, eye contact, like just like picking each other up. So in those moments when it gets tough, like I think a lot of teams tend to fall out from it, but we do a good job of picking each other up and like pointing out the things that are good, and then doubling down on that stuff.
Yeah, the little things are important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And the energy in that GLIAC championship match against Grand Valley was unlike anything we've ever seen. It was, crowds was chanting all the time, and I was getting really excited. How do you feed off that personally when the crowd is really getting into it? How does that kind of affect your play?
Yeah, so when we started off at Hillsdale, they had a pretty good student section, and that's when we noticed our energy was able to flip, because whether the energy is against us or for us, I think that we just do a good job of eating it up and using it to our advantage no matter what. Mm-hmm. And like, we love when people chirp us and like want to try to bring us down. Like it makes us happy and we smile. And that's when we're happy and we smile, that's just when we play our best volleyball. So yeah.
Has there ever been a game where you're just like, man, this fan base is just gearing us up? Like, has there been a memorable game?
Ruthless.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's really hard to like look back at it, because like when we're playing, we don't actually like know that they're cheering, but we just like the energy and like the loudness. But definitely that GB game with the 5th set, like hearing everyone and seeing people stand, and especially our bench energy. Like bench energy is the first thing for sure. And so that was crazy. But I would just say like games like those, or Lake Superior State at home, we had all those elementary students.
Yeah,
oh my goodness. I remember like feeling I was like in a elementary cafeteria. I was like, I can't get these kids out of my ear, but it was fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, just high-pitched kids just screaming the whole time. But, I mean, looking back at the midseason against the Midwest region crossover, you saw a lot of teams that were going to be able to, that you would be able to see kind of in postseason. How important was that when you went in there? Was that kind of like we're only going to focus on the teams that we're going to play, or was the team kind of being able to go watch some games of some good teams that you might be able to see later on?
Yeah, at the Midwest region crossover, we were like definitely focused on the teams we had to play, because like we want those wins for the region wins. Mm-hmm. But I think also we were kind of walking around looking at like possible people. I mean, because we were watching Davenport and UMSL play, so I think that was a good one to watch, even though it didn't really go in our favor at the end of the season. But our focus was just to beat those region teams and play our best, and it was hard because like the 3 games in 3 days, but it was fun, and you could see that we were really focused on those games to get those wins.
For sure.
Yeah, going back to the high school level, you went to North Muskegon to stand out there. What really got you into volleyball in the first place that led you to have all that high school and then eventually collegiate success?
Well, it's actually really funny because I was a really big basketball player, like in middle school. And I remember just being in basketball practice one day, and like the assistant volleyball coach came up to me because I was in middle school basketball, and he was like, hey, like you're tall, you need to play volleyball. And I was like, well, like I've never really liked it, but I'll try it. So then he was like, well, let's go meet the team. So we like walked me over to the varsity team, and I was like, oh, like they're super nice. Like maybe I'll do it. But like I was in 8th grade. I was like, I'm not going to do it. And then freshman year, we got a new coach, and she like is the one that just taught me everything. And ever since then, I just loved it, and I just kept playing and learning new things. And my coach pushed me to like try new things and be the best. And so that's kind of how I got into it.
Yeah. And you played basketball then, and that translated over to volleyball. What were some of the things that you think really helped you in that successful transition then?
I guess just like, I've always liked being a part of like a team sport, and like basketball is a team sport, but like one person can dribble around and, like score
do everything. Yeah.
But and then I got into volleyball, and it was just like more like it just upped the team part of the sport. And so that's something I really liked about it. And that just shows like why I love it here so much. Like we're just such a close team, and our energy is always great and that kind of stuff.
That's cool.
Who creates the playlist for volleyball? Because I always wondered that, because last year, I mean, it was good, but then they kind of like, it's the same playlist. So I was wondering, do you guys like create it yourselves, or is it kind of just like a basic one?
Well, Tia just asked us, she's like, well, send songs if you want some songs. So, I mean, I'm not a big music person, so I didn't send any songs, but the people that did, like, obviously sent her the songs, and then she has this friend who like makes it, and he does a really good job with it. So
so that's what.
Oh, so it's like
so
a
it's
mix
more like
thing.
a DJ thing. It's,
that's cool.
Yeah, he's like a DJ. He does stuff at weddings.
Yeah,
cool.
That's sweet, because I always like being able to do like some of the music for some of the athletic events. I always click your guys' playlist, and it's like, oh my gosh, these transitions, these fades are like perfect. And that makes sense now.
Yeah, it's none of us. It's none of us.
Yeah, it's not me doing it. It's a professional. That's probably why.
I'll be dancing by the stat table sometimes. But
yeah, it is a banger of a playlist. It's actually been played in some other sports that it's been so good. So, but it's
not
certainly
a lot of misses on that playlist.
No, not a lot of misses. So, but when it comes to new additions, really, I mean, you guys are going to have a new arena next year. Super, super fun. But what was it like really playing, going from, you got to experience Inglegeben last year. Now you're going to, you had the whole season in Wink, and now it's going to be moving on to Bulldog Arena. What have been the things you kind of taken from those three venues so far in your time here?
Yeah, I mean, it's cool like being a part of the old gym, like when I came in my freshman year, and it was super small, and there was like the one side of bleachers, but it was just more like homey. Like we just loved it in there. It was cozy when it was packed, like it was packed. And then in Wink, it was harder to get used to with lower ceilings. And then like there was probably the same amount of people just like spread out. So it didn't feel like there was as much. So it was hard for us to get used to not having that energy. So we were able just to create our own, like with the bench. And then the big games came in, and, you know, the fans were there, and it was fun. But yeah, and then looking forward to the new one. We're super excited. I think it's really cool to have our own gym again and get used to it and really defend our home court when we actually play on a home court. But
yeah, absolutely. And you guys, especially you mentioned Wink with the low ceilings. A lot of other teams in conference really had troubles with that.
Rough, yeah. That was rough stuff.
How much practice do you guys go through with things going plinko off of the HVAC and all of those sort of things during practice?
Yeah, I mean, we don't like do anything purposely for it, but I guess like when it happens, and that's just like we are just better with those reactions than other teams. But when we played at the Midwest Region crossover, we were in like a big like convention center area with like a whole bunch of gyms and stuff, and those ceilings were super low. So like we would actually practice like hitting the ball into the air, try to hit the ceiling, and then play off of it. Like we would actually do those things. So no matter where we are, like we always do our best to prepare, but it was definitely tricky, and sometimes.
Yeah, just that repetition over time where it's just like, yep, it's going to happen naturally. So
yeah. Well, I remember last year I got yelled at by like a coach because we were playing in Wink. I was like, dude, I have no jurisdiction. I think it was, I'm not going to say which coach it was on the air, but I forget who it was, but he was like yelling at me. I'm just an intern, man. I don't know what I'm going to do here. But anyways, last question for you, Syann. We ask everybody on the show that comes on, what's your favorite thing about being a Ferris State Bulldog?
There's so many things, but I just think I like the support, like out of the whole community. Like we're going to the football game this weekend, and like there are some football players at any of the games, they could come to ours, and women's basketball and women's soccer, like they're always at our games. We've gone to some soccer games, went to a cross country meet. So I think just like how everyone supports each other, and like you can see someone in the hallway and they're like, good luck. Like just those kind of things, that's super nice. And then just like my team, I just feel like we always have fun. And I mean, we're already in postseason, and well, not postseason, we're at like, you know, the end of the season, and we're all like, well, where's everyone going to be today at 3:00? Like we want to get back together, because like it's hard not seeing each other every day, but that's something I love.
For sure. But Syann, thank you so much for joining us, and obviously a good season wrapped up, and we look forward to seeing the success next year.
Thank you.
Once again, big thanks to Syann for coming on the show. Got a busy, I guess not so busy now that the season's over, but still with finals coming up, got a busy schedule for her, trying to get everything back into it. So once again, huge thanks to her for coming on the show.
Yeah, it was really cool to see the insight that they had, especially going through all the changes going over the last couple of years, especially within the program and even the venues, and really their chemistry together, I think, is really what's made them so successful the last couple of years. And it's really cool to hear the inside of it, of how even if the off season and they're still trying to find ways to hang out with each other, it just shows how much really true passion they have for the game, the team, and the whole program altogether. And
I think that's the main reason why you've seen so much success from the team in these recent years, as well as just however long Ferris State volleyball has been around.
Yeah, it's been a successful program, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
For sure. Now hopping into the Ferris State Sports Report, we're going to hop on to the gridiron to go right into it. Pittsburg State came to town, 17-14 W for the football team. A close one, Brandon. Not the best looks from the offense that we've seen so far this season, but the defense just came in clutch and really held it down.
This defense is the most elite defense in the country, and that's
Crazy.
without bias, because you look at what Pittsburg State did going into this game. They were rolling offensively. I mean, they rolled through their part of the bracket really with ease, to be honest. But I will give credit to their defense, and how they adjusted in that second half was absolutely huge for them. And they really threw us off our game. 5 turnovers. Now, yes, some of them self-sustained. We did that a couple times. We had some balls that fell to the turf, and that's something that's been a problem with the team for a while now. So obviously you go through that and you learn from it and you move on. But especially in the way that the game flowed, especially going into the second half, it looked like we were in trouble. I heard so many times throughout up in the box, West Florida, West Florida. This is what the game felt like. We were starting to give it away just slowly. And then in the second half, we had that interception, the fumble, and it's like, oh no, here we go again. But that defense clamped down in a huge way. Caleb Murphy led the way. Single season sack leader amongst all NCAA levels now. Of all time.
Beat Terrell Suggs' record.
Yeah, and he's not even done yet at 24 and a half.
It's crazy, man.
He was huge. He had, I believe, 6 stats on the stat sheet for the Dogs, 7 tackles for loss. He was a monster. That defensive line played absolutely phenomenal. Jakaris Alexander had a big interception.
That one was huge.
On the goal line.
I will say that was big time, because they were marching down the field. I think that was like a 15, 16 play drive or something like that.
Yeah.
And they were really flirting with the end zone, but he just came up huge. Like, he was pretty much beat. I ain't gonna lie. He was pretty beat to that, but he was able to just really go out for that diving catch right at the 4. That was big time. That one really, I think, shifted the momentum. It wasn't a big scoring shift, but you could just feel kind of the energy build up again, especially as it was kind of going down the way for Pittsburg State.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, that interception came, I believe, right after we had given the ball back to them on that first fumble to start the second half. And that was literally right out of the gate. We had the football, and on second down, we fumbled on that rushing play on 2nd and 7, and then they ended up coming back, pushing the ball from the 39, starting to get towards the red zone, and then they took a shot in the end zone, and then obviously it was intercepted. That was a huge momentum booster. Unfortunately, then ended up getting intercepted off the hands of the receiver over across the middle. I can't remember if it was Tyrese off the top of my head or who it was.
I forget who it was.
It was just one of those plays where it was just a little bit out of sync, and they were trying to fit it together and ended up going for an interception the other way. And then obviously them getting inside the 5. That was absolutely scary. But we held in, we stuffed them. I mean, being able to just have Murph bring him down on 4th and goal was nothing more fitting for the way that he played. O'Leary, the whole defensive line, the defensive backs played well.
Larray and Ian came up big with some sacks too.
Yeah, so Jordan had a half sack, I believe, as well.
That was pretty big time. It was honestly pretty scary, because in the first quarter too, we looked at it, we were pretty much in control. I mean, Malik was slinging it. He was putting it on the money. It was just a really, really good situation for the offense. We were rolling, but then it kind of started to slow down. They got to stop. And then especially when they got that pick 6, that was kind of like the wind out of the sails and stuff like that. But it really got into a point where I felt like the defense got into a groove. And when we get into a groove, it's almost game over, whoever's playing for us, because the defense is rolling. When the defense got the momentum, it's going to be really tough, because you got 4 guys on the defensive line who can break through at any moment. You got arguably the best secondary in the country, Sidney McLeod, Jakaris Alexander. All those guys can come up with huge clutch picks whenever it's needed. So honestly, it was just a really all well-round game for the defense. I think especially when we come up to go to Grand Valley this weekend, it's going to be a little bit different story. 2 of the best run defenses in the country, so you might be seeing seeing the ball getting slung around a little bit more. But dude, very excited for this weekend.
This is going to be an epic game. I know they've almost already sold out going into this recording,
the record
and
again?
It's Monday. We still have 5 days until this game starts.
Standing room only.
Oh my gracious. It's going to be electric. We broke the record the last time these 2 teams played a year ago at Lubbers, over 17,000 people. I'll say it, Joe.
We might see a 20K.
I think we're going to see 20K, and I
bet.
truly believe that. It's a bonkers number. But when you look at the stakes of this game, both of these teams really, when you look at the rest of the seeding, right? Angelo's obviously a top 5 team. They're still in it. But as far as the other bottom half of the bracket, School of Mines hasn't played as well as they were last year. You got Wingate, who's the Cinderella story of the whole tournament. Then you got obviously the Argonauts of West Florida is still alive. They don't have a 1 or 2 seed actually in that bracket, as we can see now.
Yeah, Benedict lost and Delta State lost.
Yeah, so that's big. And so really the only other teams, it's us and Grand Valley, who when we played,
it's whoever wins this game is going to win the whole thing. Honestly,
theoretically on paper,
if you look at it, because Shepherd's defense has been a little bit lackluster throughout the season. They're playing IUP.
Their offense hasn't been too. I mean, New Haven in the first round gave them a lot of fits. They only put up 16 points with the Harlan Hill
it's
leader
interesting
right now,
because Shepherd still is kind of in the conversation for best offense in the country. You know, I mean, you got Tyson Paget who's slinging the ball wherever he wants to, but they are having games where they're kind of slowing down a bit. I mean, Slippery Rock, not the greatest defense. They're kind of more of an offense heavy team, so they dropped 37 on them, but IUP has not been having, the easiest schedule, especially Ashland playing Notre Dame at the start, not the highest scoring game in the semifinals. It's going to be interesting all the way around, but I think it's going to be a pretty cool play out for how this bracket is going to kind of finish out.
Yeah. And I know Coach Anise made the comment in the post-game press conference about the MIAA and having to play them in the Midwest region every year. It's almost unfair at that point, because when you looked at how this seeding was drafted, when you look at the bracket, you had Grand Valley, the number 1 overall seed. Then you have us as well as Pittsburg State. And who was on the other side of the bracket there? On the other side. I'm totally blanking right now. Northwest Missouri State. You have all 4 of those teams in the same region. And I mean, for us, for example, we had Ouachita Baptist. It was a 4 seed. They lost to the Bearcats in round 1
by a lot.
That was 4 of the top 5 teams in the entire country, and they're all placed into one bracket. I can totally understand why that doesn't feel right.
It kind of is annoying.
Yeah,
honestly.
It is, because it's really whoever comes out of the Midwest is already battle tested enough, and we saw it last year. Really, for our run, I mean, we were taking on a lot of these tough teams last year. In the early rounds, obviously, we had to play Grand Valley again for how many times that we've had to play them in the postseason now.
Had to play Northwest Missouri State again. A way better team than this year.
Yeah, this is probably the lowest caliber team Northwest Missouri has put into the playoff in the last 5 years, and they almost took out the number 1 overall seed. That just shows you how good that team is every year. And you just have all of these teams that we were battle tested going in, and then we got to the semifinals against Shepherd, and we were like, yeah, we're ready to go. We just took out GV, Northwest Missouri State, we're already ready for this game. And then you could see the rest of the results. Obviously, taking down Valdosta and McKinney was huge, but this was a big win for being gritty and being able to out tough teams. And that's really what comes down in the postseason is you can play your best going into the game, but when those things don't go right, how do you respond? That's what champion teams are made of. And you saw a lot of promising things from this team last Saturday.
Absolutely. And especially with against the win against Pitt State going to be very interesting. And I can't wait to talk more about the Grand Valley game on Thursday. Ooh. But Brandon, next thing on the slate for Ferris State Sports Report, what should it be?
Oh, I think we should go over to basketball. Why don't you?
I think so. Men's or women's?
You pick.
All right. We're going to start with men's.
There you go.
Go for it, Brandon.
Okay. A couple of games in action over the weekend, obviously. Ashland over the Thanksgiving Classic, as well as Great Lakes Christian Wednesday, Tuesday.
Had Bishop matchup. Sycamore as well.
Yeah, okay. We'll talk about that in a minute. But got a big win against Ashland in the championship game. Obviously able to hold the crown on our own floor is obviously a good accomplishment. Being able to play over Thanksgiving, that was really interesting, too, to see all these teams come and play. And that was really really kind of a cool idea, I thought, really, with Coach Bronkma setting that up. But obviously, we kind of looked in, obviously, with the 4 teams, and we'll get through all the 4 teams here in a minute, of who were in the pool. Obviously, we knew Ashland and Ferris were going to take off for the championship. No disrespect to the other teams, but just as far as the caliber of division and those things, obviously that the Bulldogs are going to take on the Eagles once again. But came up big in the title game. I mean, this was a back and forth game. I know I was following along online. I think, Joe, you were at this game, if I'm not mistaken.
I was not. I was at the one before.
Oh, shoot. I was there the day before as well. I was gone for another event. But when I was following online, I saw a lot of this back and forth kind of game. And it was really interesting to see how this whole game played out. And obviously, Ben Davidson was big down the stretch. He ended up winning the tournament MVP from his performance in the second half.
Huge for the program.
But I think really what you saw from this game was the resiliency, the toughness. I mean, being able to really stick with an Ashland. Ashland's a really tough team. They might not have the most talent in anybody in the GMAC, but they're going to be a team that's willing to outwork you. And that's what you really saw from the big man Searles was a really dominant force for them going into last year when we played them back at our place just a year ago when we took on this team. Haraway really provided a spark when they needed it. James Manns, I thought, was really good for the Eagles as well. But I mean, really good performances. Solomon Aragbu, he's a name that I'm going to be watching going in the rest of the season, just because he's kind of really taken that role of I'm going to let my guys kind of go through and then I can take over when I need to. Cause I saw a little bit of that from him from the Michigan game. And when he's aggressive, he can take the ball to the hole. He can hit the jump shot and he can provide a big spark for this team. He had 14 in this game. He was very efficient, 5 of 11. Jimmy Scholler obviously doing what Jimmy Scholler does, being the best team player that we've ever seen. As far as assists and rebounds, I mean, but you can't have a team without a guy like that. He's the glue guy.
He's the glue guy, you know, I myself on my beer league team and the glue guy, and no success is going to happen if you don't have that guy who's willing to keep the whole
basketball team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got to have a glue guy. You got to have a glue guy for every sport that you play. And Jimmy's that guy for our team.
Yeah. The question is though, are you the stick glue guy or are you the Elmer's glue kind of guy? That's the difference.
I'm the gorilla glue guy.
Oh, that's bold. Okay. That is, yeah. Okay. I can see
bold, but understandable.
Bold, but understandable. I like it. But yeah, overall in this game, Ben was crucial down the stretch. I thought Veas did a really good job of matching Searles and a lot of those flurries down low. I think he finished with 4 rebounds, if I remember correctly. Delapo was big in that department. He had 7. But I think really what this game was, the momentum shifts. You could definitely tell this game was just a battle of 2 really good teams. And I think really when I looked at the kind of the follow the play-by-play here, I don't remember there being a lead over 7 in this game. It was so tight knit the entirety of the way, all the way through. And I think really it was at the beginning of the game was when that 7 mark was. Really down the stretch, it was within 3-4 points the whole rest of the way. So staying gritty, staying true to your identity. They made 3-point shots down the stretch to be able to really extend that lead a little bit. Ashland got it a little bit closer at the end, but we were able to knock down our free throws at a high level. I believe we finished around 70% from the line in this game. And that's going to be crucial down the stretch when you're taking on these big teams, especially got a big one coming up this week where it's going to be physical and you're going to be able to take advantage from the line, but you got to knock them down first.
Yeah, this one coming up, got the Lakers coming to town to close out the week. That one's going to be a really good one. I'm going to talk about more about that on Thursday. But yeah, our team, especially with this Thanksgiving Classic, just played really solid all the way around. I mean, look back at the game against Great Lakes Christian. Ethan Erickson had a really great game.
Oh, he was lights out.
He was lights out just shooting wise. And you had the Cloudbout brothers who also got a little bit in there. You got to see a good amount of play from them, which was really promising, especially to see their development from last year. Didn't get much play, or they didn't get any playing time as they, I think, were redshirting, right? But they were able to kind of come on, really make a difference for that. But our team all around just looks really solid. And I think we don't really have a lot of guys on, or a single guy. Like last year we had Walt Kelzer, who could really just, the closer. You give it to him and he's kind of going to lock down. We have a lot of guys now who don't really have that type of, I won't say skill-wise because they're all very skillful, but they're not that guy who is just known for, give me the ball, I'm going to go score no matter what. We have a lot of guys who are team players who are going to do what they need to do, share the ball around. You'll see some guys, that are going to drop 25 one night, and then the next night they might drop 7 or something. You saw that with Ethan Erickson. I mean, Great Lakes Christian, he drops 20 some points, and then this game against Ashland, he dropped 6. But that's picked up from Solomon, Ben, and Delapo. I mean, you see a lot of guys who are going to be able to kind of fluctuate with points, but I think that's a good thing, is because you'll see a lot of teams kind of not really know what to do when it comes to a game plan, which is going to be pretty big time. Women's basketball, as well as in action over last week, over the holiday, played Grace Christian as a sole game. Was a good one. I'll say pretty good game.
Here's the thing. Grace Christian is a really good program for NCJCA, but they're just not ready for a D2 team. That's really the only thing.
Yeah, that's about it.
And they are willing. I give them credit really for their coaching staff to be willing enough to play us each year in and year out. Because the reality is they kind of know going into that game that it's going to be hard. but they play us year after year. They put us on the schedule. So I give them kudos for that. And those are the games where you find out where your team's really made of. Cause this Grace Christian team, like, I've looked back in years past and they've been in the deep postseason runs in their division. So they're a really good team. The only thing is, like, especially going into this game, they had a lot of scratches. So they only played 7 players total.
Yeah, it was
and that's really hard to go when you're playing, especially on, especially a game like this. It's not an orthodox game, for example. I mean, it's the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So that's really kind of a game. You're coming off, obviously you're going to be practicing over break, but it's a break, right? Yeah. It's Thanksgiving. You're going to be a little bit away from the game, obviously, because it's kind of that mental break. You're a student athlete first, right? Student comes first. So obviously that comes into play with athletics overall. But when you look at that team, you could just tell the way that we were pushing the ball, it was definitely becoming very taxing on them overall, especially with only 7 players. But I really thought the team played really well. I did get an injury update from Coach Westendorp from this game. No Caden Blanchard and likely no Maya Hiram for the rest of the year, both with knee injuries. So that's a big loss. But I thought this team played outstanding with how much freshman production that we've had so far, or really I should say first year players, because I mean I think you can put Kenzie Bowers like the first year of a Bulldog, but obviously she's been there at the D1 level.
D1 talent.
Yeah, so. But I thought Elle Irwin played really well. She's a really fantastic player. Deshauna Day has improved immensely, as well as Chloe Idoni. Mallory McCartney will step up on the nights that they need to, and really the production off the bench too. There's a lot of versatility. Emma Scharbeek was on fire from 3-point range coming off the bench. Jolie Houle will definitely be a sharpshooter that we can rely on in some big games. But I mean, the production down low, Grace Sullivan being like that 6th man right off the bench, I think is going to be huge at the point guard position. But I think just overall, the distribution, the ability to go out and run, being able to make plays, knock down shots. I mean, you can take any opponent and throw them in that mix, and you are really liking what this team did on the last Saturday. I think you can really apply that. It's all about the process, right? These games are process games. It's kind of like the exhibition game, if you will. You're taking all the things that you're getting from this game, all the production, all the play calls, all of that schematic material, and now you're saying, okay, how can we apply this when we play these bigger teams? We're going to be playing the Grand Valleys. We're going to be playing the Michigan Techs, the Saginaw Valleys. They're really good teams in this conference. And what are you going to be able to do to be able to counter that? And they saw a lot of good things. You can be able to really go down low as well. Mago Nabaga played really well. Ariel Jenkins played well down low. Both of them 13 rebounds combined between the two of them. That's going to be crucial, especially when we take on some of these teams that are going to have that physical presence down low in the paint. But I think really you can look at the score sheet. It was spread all the way across the board. Mallory and Kenzie didn't even have to score that much because everybody was all over the scoring column. So, I mean, that's really huge for us. And I think really both teams, you look men's and women's, overall spread across the board, being able to score it at a high level, being out to get out and rebound and run. I think that tempo is really what makes these teams so good.
Yeah, that's going to be big time. But dude, Mallory McCartney's court vision, I've said it before.
It's incredible.
She's got eyes in the back of her head.
Literally.
I swear, there was like 3 passes where like she barely basically just redirected the pass. And I was like, how are you doing that? I did not see that pass at all. And she was able to thread the needle. There's a couple times where they weren't really ready for it. It was kind of coming with some heat, but I think that's just kind of working out some kinks, especially before the whole regular season starts to come around. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, definitely very promising. Loving to see how spread out scoring was for this game. It was, did we even say the final score? Did we even say it? Not our
104-45.
Yeah, 104-45 is what it was. So tough looks for the program. Tough looks for old Grace Christian, but you know what happens?
It's a process. It's not the score.
A process.
Yeah.
It's also, I was really wondering if they were going to show up for the second half. They came out with like 20 seconds left.
You're saying that you should talk about East-West from the men's
game.
Dude,
I was literally like, okay, are they going to show up? I was sitting there with my roommates and I was just like, I don't even know if they're going to show up because we got out there with like 10 minutes left to go in the halftime. And it was maybe 20 seconds. And I saw them come out of the locker room. I was like, I don't even know why they would. Because it was like 60-20 at the end of the half. So
yeah, I mean, for the men's game in the Thanksgiving Classic, Joe mentioned Bishop Sycamore. And
East-West University.
So East-West University was the other school we played. when we looked up information on the team, there was not a whole lot that we could find on them. And that's, of course, why somebody brought up Bishop Sycamore. They're a school, I believe, just outside Chicago. They have a building downtown.
They have a single building.
Yeah, which they have all the levels as part of the school. It's a really small school. But I mean, hey, they have a pretty solid basketball team for not having as many resources as a lot of these other teams.
I think they only have a basketball. Like, that's their only thing.
That is true.
I'm looking up, it looks like they play on a rec league court. Is it like, look on the screen, Brandon. Look where they play.
Oh yeah. I saw the picture, Joe.
I ain't gonna lie. It's a little suspect if you ask me. I don't know. But yeah, they did look like they just got them off like a LA Fitness court and just put like 12 guys together for a team.
Yeah, I mean, this is crazy. And I mean, I know we said this before, but being able to be in the studio, have all these screens and technology with us.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I forgot to say that. Yeah.
I mean, it is absolutely incredible. So shout out to all that have made this possible.
This place is sick. I ain't even going to lie.
Yeah.
We got a thumb scanner to get in.
Yeah.
We got a screen up on the side of the thing. We got a new mixer. Dude, it's pretty big. We're living lavish.
We are living lavish. So we appreciate all of you guys, though, because you help make this possible.
That is true.
That is true. And you guys are awesome. And we're so happy to reward you with all the great content. So
much love.
Anyway, moving forward in the Ferris State Sports Report, I believe we have covered almost everything here.
There wasn't a lot going on over the weekend.
Yeah,
Hockey had a bye.
Yep. So it was kind of a quiet weekend, but it's
soccer had like a bye.
But they'll be taking on Westchester.
Actually traveling. They just got to Seattle today. Or yesterday.
Yeah, they did yesterday. So that's kind of cool. Got to check in with Brody. He's kind of going with that crew over there. So
Brody's playing old athletic director.
Yeah, basically on that trip. So being really cool to see the experience from that. So, but yeah, lots on deck here from Ferris State Athletics coming up. Postseason is in full gear, and it's going to be really fun to see how this all goes about. So. But that's going to do it for the Ferris State Sports Report. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back here. We're going to talk some World Cup. We actually have United States playing right now. And, Joe, they're in the lead. We're going to have to talk about that as well as college football.
USA.
College football.
Yeah.
The game. We got to talk about that. We'll take a break. We'll be back. Break it down here on the MBSP.
Are you a Ferris State student interested in getting into audio production, music, podcasting, or even DJing? Bulldog Radio could be the place for you with plenty of opportunities and hands-on experience within not only these realms, but the marketing and social media opportunities outside. Join us to have your voice heard. No other place than Bulldog Radio.
Back for the second half. World Cup first. Joe, I'm wearing my
USA
kit today.
all the way, baby.
And the boys are winning right now.
USA versus Iran right now up 1-0. This is a crucial win. If we can, we'll probably get out of Group B along with England. England don't really have the greatest of situations, especially, I mean, they kind of ran against Iran, but not the easiest looks against us and Wales. But Brandon, the biggest game of the year, really. England has not beat the USA in the World Cup ever. And for a country whose only sport is football, as they say, to tie against a team in a country who their national sport is maybe 4th or 5th on the leaderboard for sports in the USA. Tough looks for the old boys that are trying to bring it home, because it's not coming home this year. I can tell you that much.
Oh my!
England sucks.
Yeah.
All right, I'm saying it right now. England sucks.
I would put that
on the record.
I will put that on the record. 6th. That's where I would put it. Watch this. NFL.
Yep.
NBA.
Yep.
MLB.
Mm-hmm.
NHL.
Mm-hmm.
No, take that back. College football.
Yep.
NHL.
Uh-huh.
Then you're looking at MLS. Yeah, that's the order of operations here. But yeah, right now, 1-0. Christian Pulisic breaks through. He's got us on top as we're here right now. 2:47, the time mark here on Tuesday as we're recording this. England and Wales right now at a 0-0 draw. That's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because that could be absolutely huge if Wales was able to pull off the upset. Because I believe that would actually flip us into that number 1 spot.
Yeah, if we beat Iran, yeah. Did you see the Iran reporter? He was like grilling all the US players.
They're trying whatever they can. Yeah.
He was like, that's what I'm saying, Iran, because I just feel bad, because I used to say Iran, but he's like, you're saying our country's name wrong. And then he was basically like going and asking everybody about like all the players and the coaches about like, there's all these inequalities and injustices going on in your country. How can you do the same? How can you like rep this country or whatever? And then they're just like, I I don't know, man. Like they gave good answers, but it was just funny because he's like grilling them for no reason. And I was just like, I don't know why you're coming in with such hostility, man. You're just a reporter, but that's just me, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's definitely an interesting situation for them because, I mean, really in the context of this group, it is so heavy on the top two teams. It's England against the United States.
Yeah.
And like Iran and Wales don't have like any sort of publicity of having a single chance in this group. It's like, okay, it's England and US, who's going to be 1 and 2, right? There's a couple other groups, like I think C is okay. D and E, I think, are a lot better as far as from top to bottom, have a lot more depth. And even really Qatar outside of in Group A, really outside of Qatar, unfortunately.
I mean, Qatar's not really that good.
No,
they're the first host country to lose. So.
Yeah, and they were the first ones to get eliminated, so that's unfortunate for them. But I mean,
looks for them.
Yeah, but I mean, really going back to the U.S. England game, Joe.
Yeah,
I think really when we saw them play in the first half, there was a lot of good chances that we had. Kulisic obviously off the crossbar is the one probably everyone's seen on social media how close we
Walker
are.
Or something like that. He should have scored that one, but he just sailed it over the crossbar.
Yeah, but I think really when you look back, like England's defense is pretty solid. I mean, Harry Maguire leading the troops back there. They've always had a really good group in the back row. But I mean, really, our attacking group really did a good job of spraying on chances. They had a couple of good chances too. Later on in the game, but I mean, really, you saw a fantastic performance. I think. I mean, I don't really know what else you can say about Matt Turner. The fact that he was incredible in that England game, especially late when they had that big chance later on. I believe, I can't remember if it was like the 85th, 87th minute or something like that. It was right down to the wire, and Matt Turner came in clutch. And I mean, it's a story of a ride that he's had to be able to be this goalkeeper for this national team, and they've played really well. So I think you really look at where this team is at right now, and they're able to move to the knockout stage. I mean, they're looking like a really good contender just because they're not going to, like, you're literally looking across the fixtures. They haven't blown really anybody out. I mean, Honduras was the only one in recent memory that I remember that we like truly blew them out. Like it was like a 4-0 game, if I remember correctly. But I mean, you look at a lot of these other games and I mean, they're in it with anybody, regardless of projections, regardless of anything else. And I think that really gives you credit to where US is going. They're kind of taking that, like, I wouldn't call it a Detroit-esque kind of grit as a team, but they're kind of pulling it together.
It's just,
like, we're not going to be more
the underdogs,
teams.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the cool part about it is it's like, USA just as a whole, it's funny because like on TikTok and stuff, the hilarious part is everybody's like kind of been like, I don't even know soccer, but for the next like 2 days, I'm only caring about it. But yeah, I think it's just really cool how the teams kind of adopted, and even just people who are following like USA soccer, kind of the underdog mentality, because we are really, I mean, we're not the greatest country when it comes to soccer. I feel like we've had good success about some teams, but when you look at other countries where soccer is like number one, and the way we've been able to fare against them, it's been pretty promising. So I think that's going to be one thing. I do think the USA soccer is kind of going to be on the rise in the next couple of years, especially with the joint World Cup coming up with us, Canada, and Mexico is going to be a really cool one. But this World Cup has been shaping up to be pretty solid. There's been a couple of games that have been a little bit upsets, some like that. I'm really excited to see with Group E. It looks like Spain and Japan. Surprisingly, Japan is in the second spot, so hopefully they can make it out. But Group E is kind of having an interesting play out for that. Group F is kind of meh, I guess.
Yeah.
There's not really much going on with that. Croatia was really the only one that I was kind of really depending on. Canada got knocked out already. Tough looks for them.
Yeah, Belgium losing was a huge blow.
Yeah, that was surprising.
That's a big loss, but I mean, yeah, there's a lot. I mean, Group H is definitely one that you can see with Portugal and Ghana. Those are both teams that were going in high ranked going into this World Cup. But I'll be really keeping my eye on Group E because it's not a normal World Cup when you see Germany at the bottom of any table across any group. Especially against last World Cup, they rolled Brazil 7-1. Yeah, I mean, that's just interesting to see how it's all shaped down. I mean, Saudi Arabia beating Argentina in Group C, that was incredible to watch. I mean, you really look at a lot of these teams. Poland's been playing really well. They're not necessarily a team that we're on the lookout for year in and year out, but they're always kind of in the mix. And I mean, obviously, you got some of the other powerhouses too. Obviously, you can throw in England as well as the Dutch and, a lot of those other teams that always are good year in and year out. So it's going to be really fun to see how this kind of goes through. And I've been really impressed with the United States play. They're able to possess the ball and create chances, and that's going to get you in a lot of these games. So I'll be really interested to see how they finish out. Hopefully we get a win against Iran and we can move on to the knockout stage. And once that happens, we'll preview that. Once we get final fixtures and stuff of that, I'll probably be looking at next week.
Early prediction, Brandon. Who do you think is going to win the whole thing?
I had Brazil on my radar. Obviously, that's kind of like, it's a homer pick or whatever. Yeah. But they just got so much firepower. But without Neymar, they might lose a little bit of their edge that they've came in with. So I'm kind of looking at some other teams there on the rise as well.
I was going to say Portugal.
Portugal might be one to watch with favorite. Ronaldo always. I mean, there's a couple other teams you could throw in there in that category. I mean, Netherlands have been playing probably one of the best teams overall of play right now. Out of all the teams altogether. But I mean, you can always throw out a couple spoilers. So you never know how it's going to play out, but it's going to be who plays the best that given day. And that's what comes to tournament play, especially in postseason. And it'll be interesting to see and find out how it goes. Absolutely, man. It's going to be an interesting way this World Cup plays out. It's Messi's, Neymar's, and Ronaldo's last World Cup. So end of a few eras for some of these legends of the game. So very exciting to see what that's going to be able to play out to. But hopefully we can see some really good soccer being played, because I would love to see Portugal make it far, give Ronaldo another chance at ending it out on top. So FIFA World Cup 2022 so far, really great. Hopefully USA rolls Iran today. We'll see how it goes. But Brandon, it's been pretty solid so far for this whole tournament. Yeah, I mean, could you imagine Argentina, Portugal, World Cup final? Dude. Oh my gosh. That would be insane. Incredible. I don't think that's how it's going to play out. Probably not. They're probably going to have some weird They'll probably play them on the side. Yeah, they'll play them in the quarterfinal or something. It's be like, well, that's dumb. But that's unfortunate. I hope those two get to play against each other one more time. I think that'd be really cool. That'd be sick. But we'll obviously see what the committee has to say. But there's going to be a lot of good teams. I mean, you could see like a potential Argentina with the way that they've played in the knockout stages being a potential lower seed, and it's going to be foiling with a lot of these other teams. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the World Cup heads to the final in Qatar 2022. So it should be interesting. Finishing out the show, we're going to hop over to college football. A lot happened this weekend and a lot to talk about. The game. The Michigan, big one. Beating Ohio State at the Horseshoe. Holy cow, Joe. Yeah, that was such a good game. I was ecstatic the entirety of that second half. We played phenomenal in that second half. First half wasn't as good as we probably would have anticipated, but boy, did this team show up when it mattered in that second half. I mean, Donovan Edwards down the stretch was incredible. I think he finished with over 200 yards. Obviously, he got over 160 of them on the last 2 runs combined, where he broke away for touchdowns. But I think J.J. McCarthy really was the story of this game, Joe. I think he played his fantastic game of the season, especially coming off of last week against Illinois. We knew we needed that. He knew he needed that, and he provided in an absolute huge way. Yeah, he really came up clutch. A lot of speculations were going around. Is J.J. McCarthy going to be able to throw the ball? Because without Blake Corum, that's kind of the main thing that's been going on with a lot of the ifs, buts, and maybes of how this Michigan offense is going to play. Is if they can't rely on the run, are they going to be able to let J.J. McCarthy air it out? And you really saw him being able to do that. 263 for 3. Donovan Edwards played really well, like you said. But Cornelius Johnson had a Randy Moss type game. 160 yards on 4 receptions for 2 touchdowns, 40-yard average. That's just insane to see. He played really well, as well as just the receiving core in general. Schoonmaker played pretty solid, came up clutch with a couple of good with the one reception. Loveland had the one. Was it Loveland or was it Schoonmaker who got the trick play? That would have been. Oh my gosh, I think it was Loveland. Schoonmaker. I believe was actually caught Schoonmaker. One of the two, but that was a big one, especially. And Ronnie Bell came in pretty clutch as well. Really, all around, really great game. I don't think you're going to see CJ Stroud in the Heisman conversation after today, especially with the 2 picks against this team. He did play really well other than the 2 picks. I'd say 349 for 2 and only missing 17 passes. I think he went 31 for 48. So they played really well. I just think you just didn't see as much of a dominating passing game, I'd say, that you usually see from Ohio State. They had 2 guys over 120 yards, which is insane, and with a receiving TDs as well. But I think when you just kind of really got down to it, Michigan just played a lot better all around. Yeah, no Jackson Smith and Jigma for the Buckeyes definitely kind of showed in a little bit of a way as far as being able to kind of really shadow Marvin Harrison, as well as Mbaka, or however you pronounce his name. I keep literally messing it up every time.
Let me see.
Mbuka or Emeka Bunka.
Emeka Egbuka.
Oh yeah, that's how you think. Thank you, Joe. I mean, both of those guys were phenomenal in this game statistically, but I think really the loss of the running game in the second half for Ohio State was definitely the most noted thing.
Yeah.
When you look back at the statistics and analytics, and you could tell back on the film that when they weren't getting early yards on first, second down running the football, and they were having to throw on third and long, that our defense was dialing up some good zone and some good man calls against a lot of these guys. And we really limited them in big plays. And then offensively, we made the big plays. Because you look at statistically, I mean, you could look up the team stats. And I mean, when you look at as far as like overall comparison, I mean, these two teams weren't far enough. And even was Ohio State having more yards in this game overall? I think if it was got to be pretty close. Overall in this game. Yeah, it was
stats.
530 to 492. So it was pretty close.
It was basically dead even.
But I mean, the difference definitely was us running the football. We did it incredible in the second half. Big plays.
Edwards came up clutch, I'd say.
Big plays were huge. The defense locked up. The pass rush was pretty solid. Much better than we've seen in recent weeks. And I mean, this team just really flat out played phenomenal in the second half and should put themselves in prime position now for a CFP bid.
Yeah, my favorite part about this whole game was that Gus Johnson was on the call, as he usually is for the Michigan-Ohio State game, because he just adds so much to the viewing of it. You just get so fired up, especially. I mean, we've talked about how much me and Brandon both love Gus Johnson, but to have him on this call kind of made the game just that 10 times better and 10 times more intense, because when you have a guy who's able to add to the overall excitement of a rivalry game that's this deep and this, the hatred is this deep rooted, to be able to have a guy like that, it made it just that much better. But it's interesting now to see, especially with Ohio State loss, how the college football playoff picture is going to play through, Brandon. We'll see, especially with, Alabama might be in the picture now. Who was it? LSU, I think, was in talks of it too. Tennessee might be. There's a lot of if, buts, or maybes that might go down for however many people are going to be able to make it, or however many teams are going to be able to make it into this college football playoff, especially with South Carolina playing upset to a lot of these teams, kind of opening up. But there could be a chance that 6, 7, or 8 of these teams who are outside of the playoffs could have a chance at the end of this week of conference championship play. You might see them in the playoff. You might see them still dancing.
I knew you were going to bring up Spencer Rattler when you mentioned.
All right, hey, he's okay. Okay, I'm not even a fan of Spencer Rattler. Everybody knows that. He acted like he won the national championship. He pulled the cigar move out in the locker room. Homie, you were terrible so far. You beat 2 ranked opponents. You think you're the best person ever.
Yeah,
keep it going.
Anyway, college football playoff scenarios. There's a concrete top 4 as of right now. That's pretty consensus across any analyst's mind. Obviously, with number 1 being Georgia, Michigan being 2.
I cannot spell right now.
3 TCU, 4 USC. It's okay, Jamie. You can figure it out.
Yeah, I'm playing the role of Jamie right now. We got a nice screen. My computer's hooked up to it, so I'm pulling up everything.
Yeah, Joe Rogan podcast potentially. Shout out.
Jamie, pull it up, please.
Jamie, pull that up.
Jamie, pull it up. The clip of the deer getting smoked by that car.
That's so interesting. But anyway, so yeah, you look at a lot of the scenarios, and obviously how the conference championships go this weekend will definitely determine who goes where. I think right now, Georgia and Michigan are pretty much in. I don't think a loss either way is going to hurt them. Yeah,
Michigan and Georgia, I think, are pretty much good.
Yeah, I think those two are almost lost.
Because Purdue, especially when you look at Purdue, like Purdue's known to really shake it up when you got a number next to their opponent.
Here's what I think will happen, though. Regardless of how the outcome went in the game this weekend in Ohio State and Columbus, they will find a way. If USC loses a close game to, I believe, are they playing Oregon in the Pac-12 championship?
In fact, going to that game.
You are really going to that game.
Because I'm going to Vegas. I'm going to Vegas at the end of this week.
That's sweet.
My brother surprised me with some Pac-12 championship tickets at Allegiant Stadium.
You'll have to send me a picture when you're out there.
You know how it is. I'll be an Oregon fan for the day. I don't like USC too much. So.
Yes, of course. But I think if USC loses a close game to Oregon, I have a bad feeling. They're going to, well, not a bad feeling. It's not a bad feeling, but I have a good feeling that they're going to be putting the Buckeyes in over the Trojans. And I
feel like you could too. You can make that argument.
Yeah, because I think they're just trying.
Ohio State is better than USC. I feel like USC really just has Caleb Williams, and like he's an insanely good quarterback. I will say that.
Yeah. Which the unfortunate part is you're going to be going into this with 3 juggernauts and an outsider. Because, we going into this season that TCU wasn't probably on our number one mind. We knew they were going to be a top 20 team, top 15 team. They were going to be a legitimate football team. They're playing really well.
They're in the Big 12?
Yes.
Like,
they're going to win the Big 12 potentially over, I believe
the Big 12 does not have as much stake in college football as it used to, because it's really just the SEC and the Big 10 that kind of make the big waves, because you have a lot more of those teams ranked throughout the season, kind of fluctuating in and out of the top 25. And when you go to, Pac-12 teams or something like that, you don't really see more variation than just 2 or 3. You see UCLA, USC, and Oregon. And maybe Washington will squeak in there every once in a while. They're number 9 right now. But when you look at, SEC and Big 10 kind of rule the top 25. So you're not really going to see a whole lot of fluctuation with that. But I'm very interested to see if TCU loses, I would not be surprised if the committee moves them down 6.
Ooh, that would be brutal.
I would not be surprised.
They have a pretty favorable matchup. They're taking on Kansas State, who's coming in 13th overall in the rankings. They're a good team. I got to see them play Kansas a little bit. They played pretty good football. I wouldn't consider them as a team that's a college football playoff caliber team.
Oh, yeah, no.
So I think in that mind, I think you're right, Joe. If TCU does lose, I definitely think if you look at the situation of USC beats Oregon, TCU loses, I think they'll definitely flip-flop. The really interesting part is, will the committee say, you know what, this team's not battle tested enough? They've played the Big 12 really well, but the Big 12 is definitely lower this year. Because, you look at the teams overall from the Big 12, they're the only one in the top 10. And I believe the next closest is Kansas State at 13. And the only other ones I believe are Texas, and I think that's it, right?
Yeah, there's only Texas. 3 of them.
There's only 3 teams in the top 25 compared to, you look at the Big 10, for example. The SEC, of course, is going to rule the rankings. Even the ACC's got a couple of really good teams in there. So I think you look at where they're at, and I think you have to imagine that they win, they're in. Pretty easiest, pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
They lose. I think if either team loses, I just got this feeling that they're going to chomp at the bit to try to get Ohio State back in there. So
I wouldn't be surprised if they do.
I think that is, but if they both win, I think they're both in at this rate, because obviously you haven't lost. I think that, obviously outside of USC, obviously they had 1 loss earlier this year, but I think they still have the ability to be a really good team. And you just pulled it up, Joe. Pac-12 has been much better than the Big 12 this year.
Yeah.
USC's number 6 overall. You got UCLA,
Utah,
Oregon State, as well as Oregon, Washington, Utah. All these teams have unfortunately screwed themselves because they've all beaten each other.
But I was going to say, that's the thing. The Pac-12 is a circle of suck right now.
Yeah, because they're just beating each other.
Every team has a loss, and if you go in a circle, every team has somewhat beat another. Transitive property is going around in there. So I think that's really the only reason why you can knock the Pac-12, because the Big 12, you don't really see that too much. And obviously Big 10 and SEC, you're not seeing that at all.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll probably, by the looks of it, projections, I think that both of those teams will win. I think out of the 2, I honestly want to say USC is probably the team I would trust to get upset more, ironically, than TCU, but I could definitely see the Horned Frogs losing as well. But if you look at where it stands right now, Michigan being at 2, for taking on a matchup of TCU, I think that's a cool, really good matchup for them, as well as Georgia, pretty much going to be taking on USC. That'll be probably a slugfest, potentially, or if Georgia steps up defensively, it might not be at all, but it'll pretty much depend on how Georgia's defense plays in my mind. But potential rematch of Michigan-Georgia once again. That'd be pretty fun as us Michigan fans. But Ohio State's week's in there. They're going to have to take on Georgia right out of the gate, and that's going to be a really fun game. Yeah, that would be
tough. Could you imagine if they beat Georgia and we beat whoever it is, most likely TCU if they win? What that would be like, a Michigan-Ohio State national championship.
Oh, my God.
That would be insane.
That would be sellout plus some $1,000 tickets. It would be $12,000 ticket probably. Yeah, it would be ridiculous.
It would be crazy.
Incredible game for the national championship. We'll just have to wait and see how championship weekend goes in college football, and especially with the Heisman right now. Caleb Williams looks like a guy that might run away with it. As crazy as that seems going into the earlier part of this year, we thought it was going to be C.J. Stroud easily, but after this weekend, looking really so good for him. So he might be preparing for just the draft, and we'll see how that goes about. But championship weekend on deck. It's college football season. Get your lawn chair and enjoy the season.
Crack open a nice cold one.
I guess so.
Just hop on the recliner, toss on a nice thing on the TV, and watch that thing go down. Championship weekend's the best weekend.
It is. So thank you guys for tuning in. New studio, new digs, but you're the same great fan base we've always had.
Oh, dude, you really came in with that one.
Heart emoji, didn't I? So
love that.
Me and Joe are so grateful. Make sure you subscribe on all the podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as well as iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. As well as follow us on YouTube. We post our best bits and full shows there if you're a YouTube and YouTube TV fan. So we're looking out for you. So make sure you subscribe. But until next time,
take care, everybody.